From Japan to the world, how to translate a game. Behind the global success of Japanese video games lie a delicate task, appealing to overseas players whose expectations on issues such as sexism are increasingly influencing the content of major... Oh, what the fuck? With the majority of sales for big games now outside Japan, everything from slang words to characters' costumes must be carefully considered for a global audience. It's a complex process that's come a long way since Wild West of the 80s and the 90s. There were no rules, no industry standards. Says Sega of America team worked on Like a Dragon Infinite Wealth. Back then, translators faced constraints, including 2 small text boxes. Yeah, sure. And we're now able to be more faithful to the cultural and emotional content of Japanese games more than ever. Sure. Localization is now more integral into the design process with international gamers in mind from the start. One key example is how Japanese game developers dress their heroines. As the Me Too movement changes mindset, says Frank Ginty, central localization manager at Japanese game giant Bandai Namco. Well, that sounds like a position that's not important, and somebody who's just actively making games worse and providing no value. Yeah, I thank God we have this person here to tell us what we should look at. Yeah, why can't, whenever they do layoffs, why can't they just get rid of these people? I feel like that'd just be doing everybody a favor. We tell them that the cleavage is a bit too exposed or the skirt's a bit too short. Before, they weren't very flexible, but now they've become proactive on such subjects. Well, that's really disappointing to hear that, like, because it's not even for an audience of real people. It's for an audience of freaks that just want to put an agenda into a video game and not even play the video game. I don't know why Bandai Namco is putting up with this. Why are they censoring video games for a tiny fraction sliver of people like these freaks on social media? It's just crazy to me. A bunch of people on Twitter that would have never bought the game in the first place. Yeah, that's what's so crazy. A literal video game, people starting to take this stuff too serious, man. Yeah, it's really weird. And I think the problem, like, this is the issue. Remember what I said about how Western game development brain rot is that they feel like every video game has to reflect real-world cultural values and real-world cultural events. That's the problem, is that you have 35-year-old people that are obsessed with Pokemon that actually can't tell the difference between reality and a fucking video game. And these are people who, you know, at least 20% of their brain tells them that they're actually part fox. And, like, they just don't really reveal their full power level to everybody else. These are people that are not even fully sure that they're a human, and they're telling everybody else what is and isn't acceptable. It's just insane. Like, I don't know, when did we start letting the inmates run the asylum? Like, 40 years ago, a lot of these people would have been in a fucking padded room, and now they're making decisions for what's going to be an international product? What the fuck happened? Like, I can't believe this. Like, why are people putting up with these freaks? It's incredible to me. USA happened? I'm sorry. And guys, look. I didn't do this. That's my bad, okay? Like, I don't fucking... I never wanted this. This was not my intention. This is not me, okay? Too much freedom. Well, this is the opposite, which is ironic. Puckman seemed too risky because it could be vandalized. Oh, instead of Fuckman. Oh, that's good. Some top-selling games, including Mario, involve fantasy worlds that are not overtly Japanese, offering some flexibility for their adaptation. But the task becomes trickier for series such as Yakuza. Well, it's not tricky at all. You just incorporate the artist's vision into the product in the way that the customer wants. See, the customer is buying the product from the developer because they believe in the developer's vision. Most customers, like the producer of the product, is simply a distributor. They don't care about this at all. Like, they want to see, like with a Kojima game, I think this is the best example. People buy Kojima games because they believe in Kojima as an artist. They don't want to see this neutered, censored, and, you know, fucking turned into some flaccid, limp dick game that nobody cares about. The reason why a game like Cyberpunk, for example, sells so well and hits so hard is because it doesn't pull any punches. It's because it is raw. And I think that you're seeing this over and over and over. You're seeing it with like the explosive success of something like The Coffin of Andy and Laylee. Like this is, again, like on a very small scale, but like the game was really big for like a month. Everybody was talking about it. And I think that it offered a very refreshing take on, you know, like visual novel type games. And then you can also look at something like Pow World. Pow World crosses a number of like social mores that people feel like are beyond the pale, but it does so in such a flagrant way that nobody cares, and people even find it refreshing. And even Baldur's Gate 3. Baldur's Gate 3, I remember people had like such a, like one of the feedbacks is that, you know, that they were very, the word that people used was European towards like their views on sex, where like they didn't treat it with like this prude, weird, fucking creepy almost perspective that American audiences and American companies do. And so I see this kind of stuff, yeah, NA prude stuff, exactly. And like, it's just, it's so obnoxious. And so let's see here. The game is much more of a cultural challenge as a linguistic one. The player, whatever country they're from, should understand and feel the same thing that they're playing in the original language. Yeah, I wish these people would work on Lost Ark too, though. Like, holy fuck. The dialogue and like the Lost Ark is the first game that I've ever played that I feel like the dialogue and the narrative of the game is actually so bad and the translations are so bad that it legitimately makes the entire game worse. It's actually horrible. No longer acceptable. Better understanding of Japanese culture among players means adaptations can be more subtle. Yakuza series is now called Like a Dragon, closer to the original Japanese. LGBTQ caricatures and sexist cliches have also been axed. I don't really know which one's being axed or for what reason. It depends on what it is. But in general, I think that any time that you're censoring an artist's perspective and viewpoint on something, like maybe this is going to be like a very, very extreme take, but I feel like people shouldn't publish things if they want to change them. Like, and this isn't like a guarantee. Like, this isn't for everything, obviously. But like, if your vision is, well, we like what you're doing, but we want to censor and change its meaning and its purpose in all of these ways, then you shouldn't be publishing that game in the first place. Like, what the fuck are you doing? Why are you doing this? And also, like, this no longer acceptable. Who the fuck said this? It's certainly not audiences. Like, if you ever want to tell if a game is going to be good or bad, or like a new reboot of a series is going to be good or bad, here's a really good way to tell. If the game uses the term modern audiences, it's going to be bad. It's that simple. Or if they refer to any change in the game and the argument is because it's the current year, it's going to be a bad game. When there are people dressed in black boots and big leather coats, in Europe, that could bring to mind a Nazi uniform. And this is, again, the fixation that these people have with trying to make video games reflect modern reality. Like, I mean, to me, like, I don't know, I would think The Matrix, but okay, sure. Yeah, this is what Nazis are. And also, like, they didn't even have the big leather coats, right? I mean, they had that, but they also had, like, other... Like, I mean, Hugo Boss could do way better than just big leather coats, okay, guys? I mean, look, even nowadays, they're making great stuff. So imagine what they did whenever they were doing it for a whole country. And so anyway, I go and I see this, and this is, again, the fixation that people have with making these video games reinforce their own real-world values. I think this is a poison to creativity. This is a poison to art, and it is a poison to anything else that it unfortunately touches. Why are people so obsessed with Nazis? Because they have some sort of lingering guilt. Like, I'm a lot of me is German. You think I didn't fucking do that? It's not my fault. I didn't fucking do that. What's this? I'm not sorry. What the fuck? How dare you? You're a Nazi. I guess I am, right? It's just this original sin that people feel like they have is just so disgusting. Changes often focus on alcohol, politics, or religion. Oh, how disgusting. How pathetic. Oh my god. We ask our teams in the United States and Europe to read the game script and tell us if they don't see things would be acceptable in their country. I wonder how many people in the teams that read the scripts are people that you would be okay with them watching your kids. Are people that you would be okay with them cleaning your house without you immediately observing them. Because I bet these people are probably the most, like, socially maladjusted, weird fucking freaks that you've ever seen. And they're trying to push their values into the entire world. And they're acting like a filter, trying to make sure that people can't see things in the way that it's intended to. And it's exhausting. It's so exhausting to see people, to see these games be neutered by these people that are freaks. They're gatekeeping. Yeah, they are. They're moral gatekeepers. I'm just saying, first thing, you can't top the first episode of Goblin Slayer. This reads as self-justification for a department that doesn't need to exist. Yeah, here. How about this? If you are part of a gaming company and you're an executive, I want to let you know something. Next time that you need to make profits, you need to hit those quarterly earnings reports so you make sure that you get your $200,000 bonus at the end of the quarter. Fire these people. Every single one of them, get rid of them. They are creating no value. And the worst part about it is that it would be one thing if they're creating zero value, right? It's like, okay, we're just throwing away money. But they're actually doing something worse than that. They're taking something with value and they're making it worse. So you should get rid of all of these people, trash them, throw them away, fire them, and never hire anybody else to do this ever again. We are buying Yakuza games. Well, not we. I've never played one. But I'm buying these games from, whether it's from Bandai Namco, Capcom, Nintendo, any of these games. I'm buying it because I believe in their vision. I don't give a fuck about the vision of some publisher. That's why Square Enix. Yeah, I'm believing in a vision of Square Enix. Like, not the vision of some freak that's trying to act like some moral fucking like safety crossing guard for gamers. It's unbelievable. And this is happening in all kinds of media. And I really think this is the way that you stop this. You stop this by supporting games that don't do it. That's the way you stop it. Because whenever games don't do it, do you think any of the executives really care about any of these values? Absolutely not. The moment that people realize that these values are starting to cost them money, they'll throw these people straight in the garbage. By the way, where they belong. But you have to show them that that's the truth. And the way you do that is by supporting games that are authentic, that are raw, and that are real. And so whenever you see things like that, that's why I try to promote these games myself. Because I see this bullshit, and I'm fucking tired of it. I'm tired of somebody with 6 fucking self-diagnosed mental illnesses who's telling me that I'm a bad person. This is the person that wants to tell me about the nuances of interactions between men and women. I don't want to hear anything from them. Fuck the pandering. Exactly. It's pathetic. Are these called ego trips? Is it me? No, I don't have an ego about this at all. Like, this is what my viewpoint is. This is what I try to do to change it. This is what I think you should do to try to change it if you agree with me. If you don't, then keep supporting this. I think you're an idiot, but it's your right. This is the way that I see it, though. Companies fucked up when trying to improve their culture, so they hire very progressive people and the ideology leaks through the products. I don't think it's as simple as blue-haired progressives that are socialists are ruining our video games. I think that there are also these fucking holier-than-thou Karens that yell at Starbucks employees for spelling their name wrong, and they're the ones that are trying to stop any game from having a gun in it. I really want to make sure that, like, yes, you obviously have, you know, the blue hairs, like, oh my God, you can't have people referring to other people as gender. Like, yeah, sure, you've got those people, absolutely. But you also have an entire spectrum of people that are on, you know what I'm saying? And so the reality is that, and also some of these people aren't, there's nothing wrong with their head. It's not like they're on the spectrum. They're just fucking obnoxious. Like, I think a really good example of this is, like, this is a fictional example, right? Is Dolores Umbridge in Harry Potter. She's not stupid. She's not, like, there's nothing wrong with her head. She's just a horrible person who's trying to ruin people's lives and think that she's the good person in the process. She's pretty smart, but evil, yes. Yeah, these aren't people that there's something wrong with them in their head, but there's something that gives them, they think that they have the moral authority to tell you what you can and can't see. Great character. She's such a great character. Absolutely, I agree. Because that archetype is so rarely it's so rarely shown in such a good way. I agree. Do you think these departments are bringing value to the company? If they're making sure the games will sell well, by making sure that there isn't cultural or taboo, making sure the game is localized properly? I actually don't think so. I don't think that any real people care about these problems. I think these are made up problems that people act like they care about because they're afraid of being called a bad word by thinking that they don't care about these issues. But as time has gone on, as the culture has changed, and as people have watched and seen their own franchises become more and more flaccid every year, I think people are tired of it, and they don't care if they get called a name. They don't care if they're like, oh, wow, you hate women, you're sexist, you're a misogynist for this. No, I don't hate women because I like boobs. This is fucking ridiculous. And everybody is starting to realize it. It's happening everywhere. And I think that also, like, again, what can you do? Nothing. You can do nothing, and you can do everything. It's the same thing I've said with all of this. Like, we have no power individually, but if my viewpoint is truly the viewpoint that many people believe in, this will change. Because these companies are for profit. They don't care about any of these issues. They have no values, and the only thing they care about is money. And so the moment that you tell those people that, this isn't how you make money, well, suddenly they're going to change how they're making money. They conflated everything like sexualization or attraction with objectification. Well, that's because these are people who have trouble making phone calls because it gives them anxiety. And they're the ones who are going around telling you what you need to do and how society and, you're supposed to have social interactions. Like, you literally have the inmates running the asylum. It's outrageous. These same women have no problems objectifying men, but should anyone objectify women? That's because you have to understand that these people have no real values. They only like power, and they only do what's going to give them power. They don't have any real values. Of course not. Self-report here, I hate phone calls. Sure. No, I hate phone calls too. I do. I really don't like them, and I prefer not to make them. But, I don't have an anxiety attack whenever my phone rings. What's a good way to change these people's minds? The way to change their minds is to support games that don't follow these values. That's the way you change people's minds. Because whenever video games are changed intentionally to make them more PC, and then people don't buy the game because of that, PC will no longer be seen as a value, and then it will be removed. It's that simple. Whether everyone hates text and likes phone calls because at least whenever you hang up, you're safe. Good way to look at it. Vote with your dollar. Yes, vote with your dollar. Gamers just don't do that. I don't know why. They just did. They just did. And they're going to keep doing it. New record. Yep, there it is. And that's the only thing that really matters. Like, that graph is the only thing that matters. This YouTube video, whenever it gets released, will not matter. Nobody will care. It won't change anything. It's not going to move the needle. It's not going to get the executives at Bandai Namco to be like, oh, let's go change everything. Like, I am yelling into the ether. Nothing I say matters. It doesn't make a difference. The only thing that makes a difference is this graph right here. And all of the other graphs that are just like it. This is the difference. Anecdote equals truth. I mean, I think this is a very big anecdote, right? It's like one of the biggest games. Like it's the second most successful game ever on Steam. I think that's a pretty big anecdote. And also, I think that there's a lot of examples like this. Fair point? Well, it's not really a fair point. Because, like, there's a lot of games that are criticized for being too PC or, you know, not having certain types of, like, content in them. Or, like, cutting content because it's bad. I don't know. I feel like this is something that a lot of people feel. But, like, for a lot of people, it's not a decision on whether they're going to buy a game or not. But whenever it gets bad enough, it will be. And I think that you see that with a game like Diablo 4. There's a tipping point. Baldur's Gate 3 is an amazing example of being inclusive without pandering. Well, that's because most of the people that try to be inclusive, like, I don't know, this is like kind of a cliche, and I'm probably wrong about this with some cases, but I think that there are a lot of these people that try to be, like, inclusive, and I think that they do that to hide their own bigotry. Like, they see people that are coded in, like, these stereotypes in their mind whenever they look at them. And so they have to, like, accurately correct for that in their own mind. And so they think that everybody else has to do that too. Projection. Yeah, I think a lot of it is projection. How Warcraft changed from something grim and violent to what it is now. Doesn't feel like Warcraft anymore. Curious how the game got infected with this stuff. Hemet nesting worry now kills animals because of, like, some environmental reason. It's the most pathetic pussy shit that I've ever seen. It's just fucking pathetic. Like, what is this? Like, yeah, really? No, really? Like, go do the Azure Span quests. It's just... I don't know what to say, man. A lot of inclusivity is also driven by social anxiety. It's just fear of being judged for doing otherwise. Well, that's what I was talking about before, right? It's like, I don't want to have the inmates running the asylum. And so this is a really disappointing thing to say, to see. And I think that also, like, another thing that would really help with this is to make sure that Japanese audiences are aware of this. Because I don't think that they really are. The problem is that your solution is not correct. Fire those guys is not a valid thing. When the management team are the said guys, they would have to fire themselves. Well, why not both? I think just get rid of the whole thing. I want to, whenever I play a video game, especially a game that has, like, a story or, like, some sort of creative vision behind it, whenever I buy the game, I'm voting for that artist. I'm voting for that studio. I'm not voting for a localization team that changes the cleavage of a character. I'm not voting for the character, you know, like, oh, well, let's go ahead and, you know, make this a little bit more modern for American audience. I'm not voting for that. I don't want that. And I don't think most people do. I think this is a fake problem that's invented by people that shouldn't be working there. That's really what I think. This is a fake problem that no real people have. People don't actually make decisions based off of these problems in games. And they are invented by people who need jobs in order to see them. That's what I think.